the participants today for the second leg of this session. And today we have three eminent speakers who have been kind enough to share their thoughts on the role of social workers in the correctional setting. And I would start with the introduction of these three speakers for the day. We have the first speaker, who would be Dia, who would be sharing about giving us an overview on the specialized units in correctional setting. We would then we would have the second speaker, who would be Abhilesh Thomas, who was there, who had taken a session in the first meeting as well. So he will shed light on the social workers' role and responsibilities in correctional facility setting. Then we have the third, not the last, but the most important of all, the Bijo. He would be walking us through the hiring process for social workers in youth justice and correctional setting. And these are our three sessions earmarked for the day. Thank you once again. We have around 28 participants and many in the pipeline to join. So we welcome all of you in this cold Sunday morning. Before we start the process, may I request Marina Joseph to do the land acknowledgement?
In the spirit and intent of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations, we acknowledge the traditional indigenous territories on which we gather at the beginning of all MASPO meetings. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Métis, and the Mississaugas of Scugog, Hiawatha, and Alderville First Nation. By learning, understanding, and acknowledging, we wish to pay respect to Turtle Island, Mother Earth, and to the rich Indigenous history of Ontario.
Thank you so much, Marina. May I also request the participants to put on their videos if possible, as we get to see the faces and there are faces to the names as well. However, it may be possible, it's your choice, but we would appreciate that. So as I said, we will start the proceedings with Dia, who would be sharing on the overview of specialized units in correctional setting. Over to you, Dia. Dia, you could unmute yourself.
Yep. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
So should I start or yeah?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
give me a minute. I'm gonna share the screen. Where's oh sorry, I'm just not able to see the presentation for some reason. Has someone shared the presentation or
Abhilesh will do that for you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, I just missed the first part of it because my laptop just shut down, so I just have to rejoin the entire meeting. So
to take you through, we did the land acknowledgement, and I just reminded the members that you would be starting the proceedings for the day with your first presentation.
okay, sounds good. So if Abhilesh can share the presentation, I just can go ahead with it. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dia. I work as a social worker at Elgin Middlesex Detention Center, and I believe that Verghese sir had given a kind introduction.
Sorry, yeah, I just
No,
forgot that.
no.
I'm really sorry. Just hold on. My bad, my bad, my bad. So it's good that we have more members joining in. So it's an apt time for me to introduce you.
Okay, no
Uh,
worries.
Friends, the maybe the Saturday weekend has taken up on me. So Dia has been a great support for Maso as well, and she has a great body of work. She started off her presently she is working at Elgin Middlesex Detention Center, and it's close to 3 years she has been working there as a social worker. But prior to that, her passion for this role comes from the rich work which she did in Kerala, especially in the juvenile justice institutions, which was part of the social justice wing of the Kerala government. She has been an advocate of policy changes in the areas and has influenced a lot of amendments in the policy and state laws. She also has a rich work experience with the Human Rights Law Network to strengthen the human rights mechanisms through training for people involved in social justice system, police personnel, and political investigations and campaigns to protect the civil rights and liberties and safeguard the rights of the visible minorities, and extended to working with refugees, tribals, activists, and religious and sexual minorities, and the rescue and rehabilitation and repatriation of victims of human trafficking. So her whole in the conversations what we had, she has always demonstrated that passion. And thank you so much, Dia, for taking time out and sharing from your great body of work to this August audience. Over to you now.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah, so I'm Dia, and good morning again. Thank you for the opportunity so that I can share my work experience that I'm currently with the corrections. So today morning, I would be talking about the specialized units in Ontario Corrections. And before I start off, I'll just go and give an overview of what Ontario Corrections is like. I know that you might have had a recap of what corrections looks like and what the ministry is, but then before we start ahead, just to give a recap, we'll just go ahead to the next slide and then have a quick view of what the ministry is. So the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services, which is abbreviated as the MCSCS, establish, maintains, operates, and monitors Ontario's correctional institutions and probation and parole offices, and provide programs and facilities designed to assist in offender rehabilitation. The Ministry of the Solicitor General is responsible for delivering correctional services for adults 18 years or older. To the next slide, please. So the ministry has 26 facilities throughout the province that include correctional centers, detention centers, jails, and treatment centers. These institutions are located region-wise, which is the central, eastern, western, and northern. And each institution reports to the regional office, to the Institutional Services Assistant Deputy Minister. So this is a recap of how the corrections run. And moving ahead, we'll go to an in-depth, I wouldn't say like an in-depth, but an idea of how correctional facilities run, what the supervision models would look like, what different kind of units would look like, and how people are being taken care of in a correctional facility. So in the previous presentations, you might have noticed that, like as I've already mentioned, there is a correctional facility, there are detention centers, there are jails and treatment centers. So a quick recap of the differences between them are a jail, it would be a smaller facility which would have less than 50 inmate population. A correctional facility is when someone gets sentenced and is sent to a longer term housing, which would be like a almost like for about 2 years. A treatment center would be somewhere Ontario has correctional treatment centers throughout the province that would have like particular programs for people who have offended and have gotten sentenced, and detention centers are would be the first place or the institution they would be remanded to once they get charged and has to be incarcerated. So this is just a small quick recap of what the jails or correctional centers would look like. And the supervision models for almost all of these institutions work the same. So in an Ontario's adult institution, it operates mostly on an indirect and direct supervision. So an indirect supervision is mostly where every correctional facility, unless it's a very new facility, they work with an indirect and supervision where the officers would have access to the inmates or the offender population through the rooms or the day rooms, as we call it. And a direct supervision is where they would have like a 360-degree view of the offender population in a particular area. And these offenders are housed in units, ranges, or pods. Correctional officers monitor the cells, day rooms, and they lock and unlock them directly or remotely to support rational adult behavior in the facilities. Now, the goal of this indirect and direct supervision is to ensure safety and security of the inmates, staff, and visitors by establishing staff control of all areas of the facility. We'll just move on to the next slide. So I'm just going to throw it out to you. I don't have, I'm not going to give you like A, B, C, but if you can just kindly put in so from what you've heard, what would your perception of a correctional facility is, or a jail or a detention center is? Can you just put in the chat box, or if you want to just speak up, you can just speak up. What would your there is no right or wrong answers here. Everybody's perception of a jail would be different from what you've heard or what you've experienced or someone you've interacted with. So what would your perception of a jail or a correctional facility is?
Guys, give a shot. There is nothing
There is
right or
nothing, there is
wrong.
no right or
Yeah.
no wrong answer in this. Just just even if it's like one sentence or like one word, that is more than enough. Just go ahead and say. Even in the chat box.
Yeah, I
Box
appreciate Shirley.
spaces.
Anybody wants to say, they can say.
Rehabilitation. Yeah, I saw locked spaces, rehabilitation.
Anymore, Dia will be giving out a prize, it seems, at the end.
Yeah, it's a criminal justice agency. True. Amazing. Crisis. Counseling. Yeah, locked spaces during trials or after sentencing. Good. Anyone else? Focus on reintegration, giving a chance to correct themselves. Remand center, mental health services. Yeah. Very stressful environment. Yeah. Okay. Punishment. Okay. Yeah, there are lots of good perceptions. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to speak up? You're free to speak up too. Yeah, stops further offenses. Yeah, it is a system that gives people to do a self-realization and make improvements. Restorative justice. Good. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so it's everything, right? A correctional facility or a jail or a detention center is everything. So it's a place when someone does an offense, they have to bear the consequences of it. It's a place, okay, I'm just facilitate correction to the offenders by mending their ways by themselves. Yeah, true. Yeah, so is there anybody else that wants to put in? Okay, so I'm gonna start ahead. So all of this you've mentioned in the chat box is true about a correctional facility or a detention center. It's everything, right? So as I already said, if someone has done an offense, they need to bear the consequences of it through a justice system, right? And that's what we call as the Ontario justice system. And they kind of go through their trial, they go through rehab, rehab, or get sufficient support to get them through the process. And that's when they get placed in any of these facilities, right? So, yeah, so let's move on to the next slide. Good job, everybody. Thank you for subbing in and just giving your perceptions. So in any facility, be it a sentenced facility like a correctional center or a detention center or a jail or a treatment facility, when someone comes into the institution, they are upon incarceration, right? You call the term as incarceration. So when they are incarcerated, they have a choice to choose depending on their offenses and the severity of the offense, or depending on the threat they have or they have upon the others, they are placed in different units, like we mentioned, as ranges, pods, or cells, right? So they are placed in different units, and these units are divided into 4. So they are called the protective custody. Now, a protective custody person is always separated from a general population. Now, why you call it as a protective custody is because they cannot be put together with the general population because of risk of threats or risk of how severe their offenses are, and they cannot be put together with like a general population. Now comes the special care unit or the segregation or the special handling unit. And these units are where inmates cannot be handled within the mainstream inmate population. Now, when you call the mainstream inmate population, they cannot be put together with the protective custody people or the general population. We'll talk in detail about this specific unit in the following slides. So just as a brief, it's a unit where people are like the offenders who cannot be mixed with the general or the streamlined offender population. And then comes a special needs unit, which is a step down mental health unit. And last but not the least, the general population, where these offenders are well connected. They do not need a lot of support systems while being incarcerated. Okay, and every institution works differently because they're all locally run by their own managements. So not all institutions would be run the same way, but this would be a gist of how they would look like in general terms. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so now we're going to talk in depth about the segregation or the special care unit or the special handling unit. Now, the term segregation is interchangeably used as of currently, because we are trying to replace the name with special care unit. So throughout the conversations or the slides, you will hear me talking about segregation and special care units, just keep in mind both are the same, or the special handling unit, slightly different, but it comes in the same category. So segregation and the special care unit, I would interchangeably use the names. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, coming back, this is another brainstorm or like a question. So you have options here. Feel free to put it in the chat box, or if you want to speak up, or if you have anything to say about it, just feel free to say about it. So the word segregation, what do you know, or what do you think about when you hear about segregation? Isolation. Yeah. Confined time out of room. Isolation. Isolation. Yeah. Anybody else? D, all of the above. Yeah. All of the above. C, isolated for a prolonged period of time. Yeah. All of the above. All of the above. Yeah. Yeah, all of the above. Okay, all right, I think that's it. So, yeah, so it can be isolation, social isolation, isolated for a prolonged period of time, all of the above. Let's see what segregation actually is, okay? So if you move on to the next slide, it gives, so both the description of segregation is, one is by the Human Rights Charter, and the other is by the ministry. So let's look at the Human Rights Charter. What does it mean, segregation, for them? So the most frequent definition of segregation used by both international organizations and community stakeholders is the physical and social isolation of an individual for 22 to 24 hours a day. So the term segregation means you are isolated socially, physically from everybody else for a very prolonged period of time. That would be anywhere between 22 to 24 hours, where you are cut down for your privileges, right? You don't have the same rights, which is very much looked down by the international organizations or the justice system. So when we go into in depth, we'll just see what it looks like. But at the same time, what the ministry sees as segregation is, it is according to the provincial law and policy, it essentially states that a person is in segregation when they are in the official segregation area. So we saw that there are units that are officially designated where each offender is placed. So when someone is placed in an official segregation area, they're considered officially to be in a state of confinement or in a state of segregation. Okay, and then let's move to the next slide, please. Okay. Now, often the question that comes up is who and why and when someone is placed in a special care unit or in a segregated condition, right? So there could be many reasons why an offender in an institution can be placed in a special care unit. And the reasons are, as you can see on the screen. So if someone is in need of protection, now what do you call by someone is in need of protection? So if they have like a security threat, or if they have a threat to themselves or to the others, right? They need to be removed from a particular unit and be placed in a state of segregation, or like a special care unit where they have more access to whatever supports that's been given, right? So that is when someone is in need of protection. And the other is when it is necessary to protect the security of the institution or the safety of the other inmates. So oftentimes in institutions, what you can see is if there could be assaults on each other, there could be like maybe verbally saying that, okay, verbal threats being issued, or it could be where someone is, we'll see in the next few slides too, when someone is very, on a mental health scale, they are deteriorating and they become a threat to other people around them. They need to be removed from that area and maybe placed in a special care unit. And another reason is also when someone is alleged to have committed a misconduct of a serious nature. So from an institutional perspective, a misconduct could be anything, right? It can be anything from having unauthorized or illegal substances, or it could be anything like a staple pen that you can give as like we are not allowed to carry anything that can be made it into a weapon inside the institution. So it could be anything as small as a staple pen, right? And they have access to it. Or if they use such things to maybe jeopardize the safety of people around them or the staff, then it's called a misconduct of a serious nature, or they bring in something called a contraband. So a contraband could be anything that people from the streets, when they get incarcerated, they bring into the institution. So contraband can be anything from substances like drugs, or it could be anything that they shouldn't be bringing to an institution. So just keep in mind how a maximum security or a medium security correctional facility works like, and what shouldn't be bringing in is like, could be any kind of weapons. Oftentimes what we find is like substances, but they're all security screened and caught before they get to a unit. And that's how, so if someone is caught with that, then it's a misconduct of a serious nature. Another reason when someone gets or is placed in a special care unit is for serious mental illness stabilization or suicide watches. And then if someone is found guilty, also of the misconduct, like we talked about the serious nature of the misconduct. So if someone is found guilty of the misconduct too, for administrative reasons, you place them in a special care unit. And last but not the least, if someone has to be isolated for medical reasons, they can be placed in medical segregation with negative pressure cells. So these are the general reasons when someone can be or will be placed in a special care unit. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. We'll see what kind of a care or support you give for people who are, or offenders who are placed in a special care unit. So in 2015, giving a short background of why we interchangeably use the word segregation and special care unit, and they're completely trying to replace the name segregation, is because of several complaints that had come up because of the prolonged period of isolation, physical and social isolation, while being incarcerated. So with that, they had come up with something called a segregation overview, a review, and which subsequently resulted in policy changes. So the end of the presentation, I've given citations which you can actually access. So which is why right now special care units are the most sensitive units in an entire facility, which has to be reviewed daily. I've been working in a special care unit for the past 1 year. So I'll just give you a gist of what happens on a day-to-day in a special care unit and what kind of offender population we might have to handle while working in a special care unit or a special handling unit. This is the first category of offender population that from what I know or from what I worked with, who has been placed in a special care unit are offenders with a serious mental illness who are volatile or destabilized, or is actively showing psychotic symptoms, and they are not adhering to treatment plans put in place by an institutional psychiatrist. So they cannot be in any way put or be placed in between the mainstream offender population, because they are vulnerable to themselves and they are vulnerable for others too. Right? So if someone with a serious mental illness, so these people can be placed in a special care unit once they come in as a new intake, that is like newly incarcerated and comes into a remand center, or if they start showing decompensation while being incarcerated too, they can be removed from an existing unit to the special care unit. So the first thing that you can see on the slide is a brief mental health screen and a jail screening and assessment tool. So that is basically done when someone is a new intake. We call them as a new intake in a facility. So they are new to the facility, and they're just going to come in. So what happens, the process is when they come in, there's an admitting nurse, and the admitting nurse go through a very brief mental health screen, which asks them about if they have any mental health concerns, or is there something we need to know, or if they're on any medication they need to know so that they can restart on the medication while being in custody. And then comes the jail screening and assessment tool, which is a comprehensive psychosocial assessment, but also an in-depth clinical assessment of anyone who comes into the building, so that we know if they have any serious mental illness or any mental health concerns, or any are they actively psychotic in nature. So this is particularly done by any clinical staff, depending on the institution they are in. It can be done by a social worker, it can be done by a mental health nurse. So once they are placed, especially in a special care unit, and if they are new admits, then a physician or a psychiatrist would do a baseline assessment of when they come into a special care unit, and they have both these screens done. These screens also help the clinical staff to understand if someone is actively having a suicide assessment, so that a risk assessment can also be done. So they will be put on suicide watches for the safety of everybody. Right? And these assessments are ongoing. The brief mental health screen and jail screening and assessment tool, we call it as a JSAT, is done within 72 hours of incarceration. And it is being recorded and kept in the healthcare files of every offender. Okay, and then comes the clinical staff assessment. So this is an ongoing process for any social worker that works in a special care unit. You have to do an assessment every single day with any number of offenders that's been placed in a special care unit. They also come up with treatment plans and care plans. So a care plan can be accessed by the operational staff, consisting of the starting from the superintendent in an institution to the deputies, the area managers, the healthcare managers, the operational staff like the correctional officers. So they have access to what is actually going on with a particular offender. So if they have to move them from one unit to the other, they know, okay, this is the care plan we have. This is why this and this person is acting so and so. So they know how to handle people, and also know what the progress of these people are when they are placed in a special care unit. And while being in a special care unit, they also go through, we go through operational recommendations, because there's also administrative placement of offenders. And therefore, there are review community meetings. And these review community meeting minutes are sent to the region every week on everybody that's been placed in a special care unit. As social workers, you'll see in the next presentation too, when you're doing a special care unit, a meaningful interaction is time out of cell, having one-on-one conversations. It could be therapeutic, or it could be just like a talk therapy with people in a special care unit. So it could be an hour and a half, depending on, because when someone is placed in a special care unit, at least they need 2 hours out of their cells in a day. So to fulfill that recommendation, we do time out of cells with offenders who are placed in a special care unit. And in all of these, there is an interdisciplinary team involvement, where the psychiatrist, as per the availability of a psychologist, social workers, mental health nurses, healthcare managers, we all do daily meetings to have updates on every offender that's placed in a special care unit. For a suicide watch, every institution does it differently. There are certain institutions where a social worker can do the initial risk assessment and put somebody on a suicide watch, or it is the or it's the mental health nurses that does put the offenders on suicide watches. And suicide watches can happen upon intake or in any period when they are incarcerated in a facility. So when a suicide watch happens, we do put them in a special care unit, and they are updated every single day. It can be constant watches, it can be an hour watch, or it could be like every other hour watching for a suicide watch. So what they do is, like, someone will literally be constantly watching someone who has a suicide ideation. Now, a special handling unit. So in a lot of institutions, the special handling and the special care unit are combined together. In some institutions, they are not. A special handling unit is where we would have offenders with who are going through high-profile cases. So a quick example would be like someone who has been in the news, right? So they cannot be put in like with the other offender population. So a special handling unit would have high-profile offenders being kept and taken care of. A special care unit becomes a lot intensive, because oftentimes, like I mentioned, it's placed with people who are destabilized with mental health crisis. So as a social worker, the role would be to probably know what the community supports would look like, or inside the institutions, if they're adhering to a treatment plan, or if they have to be formed and sent to a hospital, or if they have a community treatment order, you would facilitate, say, if it is going to expire, maybe let the healthcare know. They would have a chart to see who is where, but at the same time, if they get missed, if we have to be on top of helping out each other, so that these people get the sufficient support while being in a special care unit. Also, if someone cannot be because no one can be in a special care unit in a condition of confinement for more than 5 days, because for more than 5 days, even if they get like 2 or 3 hours of time out of cell, it is still considered a physical and social isolation from the rest of the population. So they have to move them. So we call it as a care and placement. They have to move out of the unit, which oftentimes may happen, may not happen, depending on the administrative needs too. So we have to be pushing, we have to work towards getting them stabilized and move them to regular units. I hope you had like a quick understanding of what a special care unit in a facility would look like. And there are citations, like I said again, at the end of the presentation, which you can go and maybe read upon to see what in depth all of this looks like. So let's move on to the next slide. So a special needs unit is where someone it's also called like a step down mental health unit. A step down mental health unit is when someone is stabilized, is adhering to a treatment plan, or is can be put, so they would be kept separate from the mainstream inmate population, but they have their own unit where they have more support and care from the psychiatrist or the mental health nurses and the social workers. So special needs unit is for people who present with a severe or persistent mental illness, especially serious mental illnesses like schizophrenia or any schizoaffective disorders, or it could be, they could be on long-term acting injections and on community treatment orders, or would be involved very much with the community act teams, or someone with an intellectual disability or a significant physical disability. All of these offender population would be kept separate from the mainstream offender population so that they get the care and support that they should be getting while being incarcerated. And each of these cases considered individually on its own merits or based on consultations with clinical staff as appropriate. So clinical staff, again, would be comprising of the mental health nurses, the social workers, the psychiatrist, and depending on the availability, a psychologist. So that's what a special needs unit in a facility would look like. And on an end note, the purpose of a correctional system is to protect the public from crime, but also to provide the supports that will enable an individual who enters the system to gain the skills and knowledge to reintegrate into the community and not reoffend. In the next slide, you have the citations. I have put in a few citations, so if you want to go through it and see what these are all publicly available literature that I've put through the slides too. So if you want, you can go and have a read. And thank you for the opportunity. This is it, and I would be staying for if you have any question and answers in the end, feel free to ask. Thank you again. Have a good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dia. Thank you for taking us through the supervision model, the specialized care units, the plans, and to say the most important piece of the thought-provoking questions, which were very interactive. And I'm sure all of us feel that this is a very a new subject for most of us. At the same time, very educative efforts on your part. We appreciate that. We also understand from all the three speakers' point of view the limitations of this subject, which can be brought to the public forum. And in spite of all that, you have been able to take us through, educate us on this process. We are so grateful and thankful to thee. Just for a recap, I would say that in the first leg of our session on the social work in the correctional setting, we had touched upon rehabilitation programs in the correctional setting. We had AB had done the overview of the treatment centers in the correctional settings. Then we also had Anu, who shared about the youth justice division, and as part of the roadmap to understand and educate all the social workers on this social work in the correctional settings. And as part of the second leg, today we would be, as Divya covered on the specialized units, Abhilesh would be shedding light on the responsibilities of a social worker at the correctional facility. And like I reminded, Bijo would take us through on the hiring process, the do's and don'ts, how the interview looks like, where to apply. So this is the roadmap as far as the social work in correctional setting is concerned. So thank you so much once again. Over to Abhilesh, who would be taking us through the social workers' role and responsibilities. Thank you, Abhilesh. Before Abhilesh handles the session. He was here with us in the first leg as well. Just to remind you all, he works as as a social worker in the Maplehurst Correctional Complex in Milton, and he's a very committed and a passionate social worker. And at Maso, we appreciate and we are so thankful for him to have raised his hand and agreeing to take this session today in spite of a busy schedule he has. Thank you, Abhilesh. Over to you.
Yes. We had a detailed introduction by Dia about corrections, and thank you for coming again for the part 2. So we'll be looking at the responsibilities of social workers in correction. I would like to thank Maso for organizing this series of educational sessions specifically on the corrections facility. Like this is a very good opportunity for
15 minutes from
maybe we can mute people. If you're not speaking, maybe we can keep ourselves muted. So we'll be speaking about the responsibilities of social workers in correction. So just to wake you up, I have a question. What are the roles of a social worker in a correctional setting? One could be assessment, 2 could be case management, 3 could be community reintegration, 4 discharge planning, or 5 collaborate with community agencies. If you could put your answers on chat, or if you want to say something, that's also fine. Your time starts now. We don't have any gifts right now, but certainly you can put your answers here. What do you think that which could be the most useful skill, or you feel that a social worker should do, or most important thing here? Because we have been hearing about it. So we got at response number 3, community reintegration. One person said all. Community reintegration. Again, we got a comment for all. All 5. I think everyone is trying to be safe. Everyone's saying all. Maybe we can choose one of them. So as you see, like there are 5 things. Assessment could be case management, community reintegration, discharge planning, collaborating with community agencies. All are important. Certainly, I think one of the key things is discharge planning, but certainly everything gets along, like everything we need, because we'll be seeing in detail how the role works. So every component works. So I think it's very much similar to what we do in the community, but only the thing is that we are in an institution. Our working model is different because we are focused only in the institution. We are limited to the institution, but most of the work what we do outside is also very similar. Thank you everyone for participating. So some of the important things what we do is like provide crisis intervention services, prepare clinical assessments and statistical reports. If someone is going for a parole or something like that, we have to do an assessment and collaborate on multidisciplinary care plans. Like they are speaking about the special units, special handling units, where every inmate will have an care plan where all the multidisciplinary teams will be putting their input and collaborating and making sure that client gets the best facility, best needs are taken care of. Facilitate group and individually rehabilitate program. Another important thing is counseling. Like many of the times when they need counseling, social workers are stepping in. We have addiction counselors also there. Also getting into research activities, evaluating treatment plans, programs, and services. Also, it's important that because social work is a new component to the corrections which people are started accepting. And so it's important that social workers and programs are training the other staff also, that they also understand why it is important, that programming needs to be part of it. And it's without any security concerns, we are able to deliver the program in the corrections. So one more thing, what we do is like crisis intervention. And when they reach the unit, last time we saw what happens initially when they come, but when they reach the unit, a jail screening assessment tool is used to screen them, and suicide screening is done during the time. Classification is done, and according to the classification, they are sent to different units. We already spoke about the clinicals. Before the parole, the clinicals are done. So case management is something very important, specifically when someone needs to collaborate specifically with the community agency. Someone is coming from a housing, he already has housing in the community. When he comes into an institution, many times there are chances of he lose his housing because he doesn't have any connection. To try to build a connection with the housing worker, trying to see how can they hold the housing, or what are the other options when he gets out, can they accommodate him back. So it's a key thing when when the client is in need of case management. Case management is done with the individuals, and attend community tables, one-on-one sessions. Community referrals are done to different organizations, and resource mobilization is done. Also, one more important thing what we do is formulate reintegration release plan in collaboration with professionals and community partners and inmates. We work with like CMHA, CAMH, John Howard Society, and mainly we work on the advocacy and specifically on getting them housing and shelters. Why we spoke about discharge planning before, but I feel discharge planning is an important factor here, because when he's getting back into the community, he's trying to prepare himself. He's getting ready for the community like a canvas. Many people are very open to it. They feel that this is a second chance for this, an opportunity for them to go back and reintegrate into the community. So discharge planning becomes a key thing when the social worker makes sure that he has a place to go. He has transportation. Like if he using TTC, he needs tokens to go. If he want to go in a go bus, if he needs appropriate clothing, things like that. It could be a very small thing. Maybe just a route map to the bus stand. Know how to reach the map. Maybe he's coming out from after a long time, so he doesn't know where is the bus stop and things like that. It could be a basic thing which could be very much useful. And also a discharge planning package is given to the inmate, so he has all the resources where he can connect with. And another important thing is like participate in review meeting for specialized units. So we are talking about case management. So we have reviews happening for specific units, and also case management happening for specific clients when they need special attention, special support from different multidisciplinary team. So this is also an important factor where we are able to evaluate if we need any support of any multidisciplinary team. Like example, one person wants to see a librarian or see the library, get a book, get some printout, get some maybe just some pictures to color, just because he feels no good about it. Things could be uh, done in a better when we work as a team and we have different resources which can utilize. Another important factor what is different here is like example, it works on request. So some units we work because we have to make sure everyone is met, like some special units. But other units where we get requests, and on based on the request we process the request on a weekly basis, like we see them and make sure the follow-up is done, things like that. like conduct weekly tours in assigned units and respond to requests. So many of the requests people don't know it comes to the social workers. If they don't know what to do, they'll just write to social workers. So we try to, navigate through and get it to the right person. So another role is like connecting inmates with legal services such as legal aid, assist inmates with completing forms, coordinating with other departments in the jail for inmate needs. It could be like connecting to a psychiatrist, connecting to a mental health nurse. It could be connecting to a nurse. It could be anything which could help them. Uh, and documentation is important for specifically for inmates. Um, Psychoeducation for inmates and sometimes for the families also, it's important. So we have different programs in corrections, specifically for men, women, and indigenous people. These are the three categories where it is divided. So the corrections program is an important factor. We spoke about programs. So I think programs is something very crucial because it helps offenders correct or change behavior related to their offense and hold them responsible for their behavior. And number three could be promote public safety. So social worker and the program team make sure that the delivery of the programs are done in a specific standard. Like we have different booklets and all the trainers need to be trained by the ministry. We have a corrections college where we get trained and we need to be certified in different educational sessions where we are trained on different factors. We present before the trainers and make sure we get the feedback. And also there's an evaluation form given to the inmate. That inmate also gives a feedback on the trainer, how was the session and things like that. So ministry tries that the same standard of material used is across, and also different dynamics can be used so inmates are able to understand how it can be helped. Another important factor where the programs is like help offenders understand that they are accountable for their criminal behavior. The target risk factors that once changed have been proven to reduce future reoffending. Teach them skills for managing risk factors for crime. Help change criminal attitudes. Reduce the risk offenders present when they return to the society. So these are the few things what a program could do if the program is delivered in the right manner. We heard of a lot of good things, but just to get your highlight here, get your attention here. One of the studies done shows that correctional workers screen positive most often for either MDT or PTSD. Like so that's something very key where we see that the correctional workers have post-traumatic stress disorder, major depression. So this is a study done in Canada. So with a lot of good things, what we do, corrections workers, the social workers, the people who are working, also should make sure that they are taking care of themselves. Their physical health, their mental health is also needs to be taken care. As social workers, many times we forget when we are serving our clients, our community, that we need to take care of ourselves also. We should make sure that we are having enough self-care and there's a good team which we are supporting each other as one team, right? So I was just looking at like there are different helps available for the workers in a correctional setting. Like we have peer support workers, employee and family assistance is given to the staff. And also we have a mindfulness sessions happening. We have different training programs what they can go through. And also we have an app for mindfulness, and we have a gym in the institution where the workers could go. These are some things which we can utilize and make sure that we are also taking care of ourselves. Another important factor I just wanted to highlight you. Does anyone know which month do we celebrate our Social Workers Month? You can put in the chat or unmute yourself and say. The answer is on the screen. Do you remember what month do we, or which week do we celebrate Social Workers Week? Did everyone sleep? Okay. So the good thing about corrections is that social workers are appreciated. Like every year, the social workers are celebrating the Social Workers Week in corrections every March, and making sure that everyone is appreciated for what they are done. So this is one of the posters I saw in our institution, what they use for appreciating social workers. So our work is recognized, and people understand why a social worker is important in an institution, right? So that is also, it shows how they appreciate the work done by a social worker. So Nelson Mandela said, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. So with this quote, I would like to introduce you one of our key person today, who will be was the highlight for today's session. So we have Divya Matthew, a very young student from she's doing her course in community and justice service, and she's doing her placement with Victim Services of Peel. Currently, she's in the second year of community and justice. She's also working part-time to make sure that she's able to be contributing to her studies. And most important, the fun fact she told me about her is that she likes to mimic people. She can mimic anyone. Like, she's good at mimicking people, she said. And she's also pursuing music. She's a young musician. She's learning music. And I would like to welcome Divya Matthew.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So Divya, welcome. I would like to ask you, like, in what ways has the student placement contributed to your learning experience? And so also you can tell about your course and what you're doing and what placement you're doing.
Okay. So my course, as you mentioned, is Community and Justice Services, and it mainly focuses on the part of offender population of Canada, and it started with courses like Introduction to the Canadian Justice System, and how do we deal with offenders. And now currently in this semester, I'm learning about institutional offender management, how and addictions and mental health illness in the uh, offender population, and how do we deal with offenders in correctional facilities, and how do we take in offenders. So that things are like really helpful for me. And the placement which I'm doing, it's with the Victim Services of Peel. So those that the Victim Services of Peel, they deal with victims who are like victims of sexual assault, murder, and armed robberies. So the part where I am doing the student placement is with the Brampton Courthouse, and I have to since it's my first semester with them, with the Victim Services of Peel, the opportunity they have given me is that I have to fill in court intervention records of offenders who are involved in these crimes. crimes, in these serious crimes. So this is my so what I do is like I hear their bail hearings, which is totally remote because of the current increase in criminal activities. They have said that the court proceedings for the bail hearings, it's like totally remote. So I'll be hearing their bail hearings, and if they are released or if they are if they are held over, I have to write down the outcome, and if they are released, I have to write down the conditions by which they are released. So it's because the reason they've said that it's because they don't want the victims to come in contact with the offenders again. uh, and we are a mediator between them so that we can provide the information about the offender, the current information, and tell the victims. Yeah.
Thank you, Divya. What aspects of the placement experience has been most beneficial in preparing you for future career opportunities?
Uh, I when I entered into this placement, I wanted to be honest, I wanted a career, an exposure to connect with the offenders or the victim population. But now I'm not being able to do that. But I'm learning quite uh, a lot of things. Like when I sit in the court, I'll be the most I can do is like observing the offenders, like their posture, their way of speaking, or what have they done, and I'll read about their case history. And when I read about that, I can connect it with my course, what all I have studied about, uh, offender population, and why do they commit crimes. And it really like helps me, and I want to like in future also, if I uh, want I want to work with the young population, like correctional facilities like Cutbirth House, the detention center for young youth. So I'm mostly looking forward to it. And also the victim services of Peel, they they have called me for workshops like vicarious trauma, how to deal with trauma at the workplace. And my managers also like tell me that if you are feeling stressed out anytime during court hearings, you just tell us and log off. So I think these small things are preparing me for a bigger uh, f- career in the correctional facility, where I keep mental health the first priority, and then and deal with either the victim population or the offender population in a better manner.
Thank you, Divya, for coming and speaking with us. Over to Varghese.
Thank you, Abhilash. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Abhilash, for taking us through the role, the release plan, the advocacy part, which your role, the social worker's role does, the reintegration process, I would say, and the insight on the correctional programs, no, the help, teach, change, and reduce piece is really eye opener. And I would say Dia's presence added a lot of value to the session, especially from the practical part and the learning piece and the integration of the course studies, what she's doing, and integrating that with the practical exposure which she's getting as a student over there. So um, it was a very interactive and an awesome session and an educative one. Thank you, Divya, and all the best for all your future endeavors. I would say this session has been a precursor to our final session, which will be led by Bijo. Bijo would be shedding light and taking us through on the hiring process for social workers in the youth justice and correctional setting. Over to you, Bijo.
Good morning, all. My name is Bijo. We heard from all the previous speakers that what all versatile role and how they deliver their expertise in correctional facilities. I recently joined Roy McMurthy Youth Center in
Sorry,
Brampton.
Bijo, let me just introduce you. Sorry for that.
That's okay.
Bijo has completed his MSW from the Dr. M.V. Shetty College of Social Work, Mangalore University in Karnataka, and he started his employment as a social worker in St. John's Medical College, Hospital, Bangalore in 2006. He worked as an organ transplant coordinator and also had the responsibility of supervisor of the social work field placement students, and he received a fellowship grant from International Society of Nephrology to attend a fellowship training at Montreal Children's Hospital, Quebec in the year 2009. And for 12 years, he worked over there until he migrated to Canada in the year 2018. And he started his professional career in Canada as a resident counselor in Vita Community Living Services. Later, he joined the CMHA Peel Crisis Service as a crisis support worker, and also he worked in the as a mental health supportive housing worker in HouseLink, and he is currently working as a social worker in the Roy McMurtry Youth Center and Youth Justice Division, Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, and delivering clinical social work services to youth who have a conflict with the law. So he's a richly experienced person over here, and the apt person to take us through this session. Thank you very much, Bijo. Over to you.
Thank you, Varis, for the kind introduction. And once again, good morning to all. Just coming back to my discussion, I just want to navigate the interview and hiring process what I undergone recently to get into correctional facility. The job search starts with this checking this government website. That's www.jobs.gov.on.ca. So there you find. Can you? Oh, sorry. I think I did not share the. Can you see the slide now?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. The job search start with this website. Like, no, this is the website for all Ontario public service job opportunities. When you want to look for a social work job posting, we go to the job category of health and social sciences. There you will find a lot of social work opportunities in various correctional facilities throughout Ontario. Other than social work, there are several opportunities and roles at the correctional facilities where the social workers are eligible to apply. That's addiction counselor, there's case worker, rehabilitation officer, probation, and parole officer. So we can not only social work job, we can explore all these opportunities with our social work qualification. In this website, there is an options to register yourself to receive all these job alert on your email. That is how I received a social work opportunity in Roy McMurtry Youth Center, and I applied. So I encourage everyone to go through this website. I can share this information in the chat box after my presentation. So register in this website so to receive job postings alert on your email. I can go to that website. When you click on the website, we select the English version, and there you can see the job category. Health and social services.
Sorry, Bijo, we can't see that page. Wizard
You can see
actually.
that?
No.
All right. Okay.
Maybe you have to minimize this and open the other window.
Can you see that now?
Yes,
Are you
yes.
able to see?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay, so you can select the job category as health and social services. There you can see this is the caseworker position. Here comes the social work. There is one social worker in Maidstone, and there is two social work opportunities in Etobicoke. That's the Toronto South Detention Center. You can go through the job postings, and it's simple way to apply. And here you can give I was discussing about the job alert. Here you register with your name and email address. You will get all the job postings. Yeah. I just also wanted to enlighten you with there is two positions in almost all facilities, that is correctional officer and youth service officer. This is the employee group that the maximum number of people are employed. You don't need a social work qualification for applying these positions, but to share this information to the community. Many people are looking for a job, and after their graduation or complete education, so you can share this information to the community members. For finding these jobs, you have to select the job category as correction and enforcement. When you select the job category as correction and enforcement, you will get the job postings. As correctional officer qualification is a grade 12 or equivalency, and there's a youth service officer. Those who are individuals who are working in a youth facility, you need a post secondary education from a college, university, especially in adolescent development or behavior management. These two positions pay quite well. Youth service officers salary range is $31 to $39 per hour. Correctional officers is $28 to $34 per hour. So I'm just giving this information to you. Like many people start start working here in group homes with the lesser amount, but you can always think about this option. There are correctional officers and the youth service officer upgraded their roles with when they acquire social work degree, and they move on to social work roles in various correctional facilities, because they're already into the Ontario public service system. So it's an added advantage. We know that there is a two type of correctional system in Canada. One is federal and the provincial. This is the website for finding a job opportunity with the federal correctional services in Canada. Just to as other speakers has explained, Ontario currently has 26 provincial facilities and 8 federal facilities, and there are 5 secured and 15 open custody facilities for youth. So all these facilities are spread over all around Ontario. So I just wanted to give a example, it's just an overview about how many social work position these facilities have. I'm not telling about all. We don't know about all 26. We know about the few facilities where our previous speakers are working. There is Central North Correctional Center has 16 social work positions. Ontario Correctional Institute has 6. Maplehurst Correctional Complex, where Abhilash is working, there has 12 positions. Toronto's South Detention Center has 13. Elgin Middlesex Detention Center, London, Dia is working as 8 position, and Roy McMurthy Youth Center, where I'm working, as 8 position. So most of these facilities have a good number of social work positions, and this is not concentrated to the GTA. It's spread across various parts of Ontario. That's an when you are looking for a job opportunity and you are not in GTA, looking towards the correctional facility roles is an opportunity. There are Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Kingston, and Ottawa, like various other, these facilities are spread across all around Ontario. To eligibility for applying for a social work role is BSW or MSW with good standing with OCSW and SSW. So they always ask before the interview, are we having a good standing or the current active registration with OCSW? So we may have to produce the proof for our active registration with OCSW and SSW. Once you identify a suitable job postings, you must connect with a mentor or a person trained in correctional facility to get guidance for interview preparation. For me, I never worked in a correctional facility before applying for this job, so I did not have any I didn't add any overview of correctional facility and roles and responsibilities. So now if we know that, like, because we have seen all the presentations from the previous speakers, we have an overview about what's happening inside the facility. So in my case, I was not aware about. So what I did is I connected with the social workers who are already working with this field and get guidance from them, and that's how I prepared. So I would recommend everyone, if you are looking for an opportunity in correctional facility, please connect with an expert in the correctional facility. Fortunately, we have a MASO as a good platform. They have a good database of social workers who are working in correctional facility. They will be able to help us in connecting with the right person to get proper guidance. I just want to share the interview process, what I underwent. Some facilities, when you apply, you can see in the job posting, there is a job information preview session that if you can register, that's normally an online training session. They will give you an overview about their facility, what kind of, what's the nature of the inmates are there, and what kind of services are expected. Some of the facilities, like each facility has their own interview, and the interview process is different. Some facilities email you the interview questions 30 minutes before the interview, and you can prepare and you can make a note about these questions, and you can use those notes in interview time. Interview is conducted by a panel of members like social work manager, psychologist, etc. Normally they start again, they will brief about the facility and provide information about the facility. In my case, it was a long interview. It took more than 1.5 hours and asking various questions. It depends upon the facility. Some facilities, an adult facility, they have lesser time, but in youth facility, it took more than 1.5 hours. The pattern of interviews, general questions, start with general questions, behavior-based questions. I told you that there's a psychologist in the interview panel, so you can expect behavior-based questions, technical and job-specific knowledge questions, situation. There will be a number of situational or scenario-based questions. I understood that these are real scenarios, what they encounter on a day-to-day basis, and they wanted to know your critical thinking and your crisis intervention skills, etc. So during my interview, they were asked to make a PowerPoint presentation after asking all the questions. So there could be they can give you various topics in advance to prepare. For example, it's a crisis intervention model, narrative therapy, problem solving model, solution focused therapy, and task centered practice. If they are given certain topics to you in advance, so you have to make sure that you should have an overview of all these topics, even though you're presenting only one topic, but there will be questions on various topics already given to you. One of my colleagues was asked to make an educational brochure about social work services in a facility, and they had to show that brochures to the interview panel. At the end of all this presentation, there will be a written test based on a scenario from the facility. We need to complete that written assignment in 250 words in stipulated time. There will be questions on various legislations on the correctional system in Canada. Let's see what are the knowledge and skill set required for what the interviewers are looking for social work role in various facilities. I'm not explaining all this because our previous speakers has run through very elaborative way, how they deliver their social work skills. Mainly, they're looking for skill in individual counseling, evaluation, and assessment. Also, we're able to conduct group therapy and the crisis intervention, rehabilitation, and community reintegration is a major role. Social worker play a major role in community reintegration. You should have a well-versed knowledge of community resources to provide service to your offenders in terms of a discharge plan. So most of the facilities already have a partnership with the community organizations in providing services to the offenders when they release. Especially if you're looking for an opportunity in a youth facility, you should have a knowledge of adolescent development process theories and effective therapeutic interventions. And as Abhilash explained, that most of the facilities follow a case management model. You should know about the case management process. And you were working with a multidisciplinary team, and also the suicide risk assessment. It's a major, it's very important, like, in mainly the people, the individuals who are coming to the detention facility for the first time. They undergo severe mental health challenges, and the suicide risks are very common. Conflict resolution skill. I just want to highlight on the various legislations you should read through before the interview. There could be questions on various acts. That's Correctional Service Act, Freedom of Information and Protection Services Act, and Youth Criminal Justice Act, Mental Health Act, Child, Family and Community Services Act, and Ontario Human Rights Code. Considering an volunteering opportunity in a correctional facility is a very beneficial for if you are looking your career in a correctional facility. So all the facilities have a volunteer coordinator, so you can approach to the volunteer coordinator, you can apply, and this is a great way of getting a first-hand information what is happening inside. As an you can have an opportunity to directly interact with the individuals in the correctional facility. So, and you can, that will be an added advantage when you are applying for a job opportunity. Just an overview, like, correctional volunteers help with the rehabilitation of offenders in institution. Mainly they are spiritual and religious care. Also they are involved in providing education, employment and life skill training. The process for applying an volunteer opportunities, you have to go to the facilities website and submit an application. There should be an interview, and you need a police verification for getting an volunteer opportunity. Next is you need to provide at least three employment references prior to the interview. If they are proceeding with your application after interview, you need to undergo an employment screening check done by Transition and Security Office as per the employment screening check policy of Ontario Public Service. This is normally a lengthy process. It takes more than a month. There are lots of several jobs ahead in correctional facility. I want all of you to explore these opportunities. The advantage of working in corrections is like you are working for the government, and as I explained, these facilities are spread across all Ontario. Like if you are moving your residence from one place to another place, you can identify opportunities and facilities in that neighborhood. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bijo. Thank you. As you reminded, this sector has a lot of opportunities, and the details you gave on very practical, in fact, and I'm sure it would help all the social workers who are present over here, the job opportunities, the various roles, positions, and your personal journey of getting a job in the sector. And the homework you did, really, it's commendable, and we thank you for sharing that journey with us. And also, I feel like it would give a lot of confidence to the social workers to understand, demystify the whole sector, and whatever myths and misconceptions we had went out of the window, I would say, today. And it's a good practical aspects of getting how to get a job into the correctional setting. And like you reminded, it's working with the government, and at the same time, as a social worker, it's impacting the life and of people as well as impacting the community. So thank you so much, Bijo, for sharing your time and your thoughts with us. We will keep the platform open for another 3 to 5 minutes. So, and we have all the presenters over here, Abhilesh, Bijo, Anu, AB, everybody's here. So so any questions anyone has, it's a good opportunity to put it in the chat, and we can address it. So we will keep the platform open for another 3 to 5 minutes for any questions. People can speak up or put a chat in the chat box. They can direct the question. We can facilitate.
Just if you have given me a chance, may I proceed?
Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Barek.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much. My name is Ephraim. You know, it's my first time just when I joined this kind of Zoom for correctional offices and the structure, the job opportunities, that kind of things is very informative, very valuable. Thank you guys for this wonderful presentation. So if you don't mind, just if share us the presentation, the PowerPoint, that would be so nice. And then again, I would like to appreciate one of my friend who is a member, I think, who was participating on this and then invited me to take part on this. Thank you guys. Very wonderful. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ephraim, for your kind words. It's very encouraging.
Hi there. Great Saturday, everyone. My name is Tony, and I'm luckily working with Children's Aid Society. I have joined in the job very recently. So I was quite curious about the details which I heard here. Is there any chance that we can actually, for working professionals like us, to understand what exactly is happening in a corrections, in that setting, how social workers really work? So is there any program or any day, any special, where we can actually have a first-hand information, just go visit the facility and see how it is happening there? I understand there's a lot of confidentiality there, but I actually popped this question in the chat, but if there is any way, it would be interesting. Thank you.
Mr. Tommy, thank you for that question, but Child Protection Services would not like to lose you. And Diha, if you could answer that question.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, institutions, unless you are a volunteer registered with an organization, you will not be able to visit any institutions because of security reasons. But if you want to volunteer for a prolonged period of time, you can definitely do it with the volunteering organizations that's registered with the institution. But otherwise, unless and until you have a family member and there's a family day that you can bring your kids to the institution to see how it works, which actually happened in the last week. But otherwise, you need security clearance to enter the building. And because most of the facilities are maximum security facilities, they do not allow, I'm not sure about every institution, but to my knowledge, no, they do not allow people to just enter the buildings.
Okay, I can add something to that. So, when it comes to Ontario Correctional Institute, they are not a maximum security person, so that's a treatment center. If you approach them to your institution, you can definitely arrange an institutional tour there. And apart from that, I believe, the public cannot go beyond certain places in any institution.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate the response. Thank you so much. I kind of guessed that it would be something like this, but I just wanted to ask this to make sure that, I'm being very curious about this because I'm new to this land. I'm just exploring opportunities, and I'm happy with what I've got right now. It's not that I'm not satisfied with something. I'm just, after hearing a lot of facts and information here, I was just becoming curious. So thank you guys, and that makes it more important about all the information and all the presentations here. I really do thank Maso for this platform. Thank you so much. God bless everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Tony, for that question. Thank you, AB and Dia, for clearing it up. Thank you so much.